Hello again, this is Instructor Williams. I am the Technology Instructor for the Antioch Public Library District. Thank you for watching our YouTube video today. In this video, we will be going over Microsoft PowerPoint 2016 Basics Part 2. In today's video, we will be covering opening an existing PowerPoint file, how to create new slides, creating new themes, inserting texts and text boxes, entering bullet points, duplicating slides, and giving a presentation, or also known as a slideshow. In order to open an existing slideshow, we just simply need to find it. So from our last video, we saved a PowerPoint presentation onto our desktop called Test Text, right here. So I'm simply going to double click on that and it will open up the PowerPoint program. Creating a theme. In order to create a theme, we want to come to the Design tab at the top, and we can see this first group here is titled Themes. So all we do is we go through and we select the theme that we would like. So we'll choose this one here, this blue theme. And we can see how it changes our slide layout and the look and feel of the presentation. Then if we want to insert text into it, we would simply click in the preset text box and type what we want it to type. Now with the text box, we can also move it around and adjust it. On the slide to the way that we would like it. We could even edit the layout of the text inside of a text box by coming back up here to the top and clicking on the Home tab and adjusting the font setup. We can also take the text layout and adjust that with the paragraph setup. So I could center the information so it's well centered. I can move this back and forth, set it to the top if I want, and we also have a subtitle here. And likewise, I can move this back and forth. Now if you'll notice, if I look at this text box, if I center it just right in the left-right axis, I can see a red dotted line telling me that it's perfectly centered. And then if I wanted to center the text, likewise I can highlight the text and this little quick access toolbar pops up and I can choose to center that text, and that way it is centered on the slide. Once I am finished with this slide, I can bring in a new slide and start working on that by simply coming up here, making sure I'm in the Home tab, looking at the ribbon. The second group is called Slides, and I can easily click New Slide. And that gives me a new slide. It's still part of the same theme, so the image layout and coloring is related, but the text box setup is slightly different. So this allows for different flows of creativity in how the presentation is viewed visually. And here we have at the bottom the title, and then the body is at the top. So in the bottom we'll say this is slide 2 in this lesson. And we can see here in this box that we have a little arrow right here, and that's basically a built-in bullet point. So I could say point 1, and when I hit enter, we'll create another triangular bullet point, point 2, point 3, and so on and so forth. Now these bullet points are preset into this slide format, so it makes everything easier. I don't have to customize all of this. I can just type and go. Now if I wanted to be a little bit more detailed in customizing my formats, I can come back up here to New Slide, Instead of clicking on the image itself, I can click on this little down pointing arrow next to the word slide, and it will give me several slide options to choose from. I have a title slide, title and content. I can do section headers, or I could do blank. If I really wanted to customize my slide from start to finish, I can choose a blank slide that has nothing in it, no text boxes, no formatting, anything. All it provides me is a background image that is related to the theme and the color scheme. So all of the formatting, all of the images that go into this is now up to me. So if I wanted to put a text box in here, I could stay on the Home tab and move over to this group toward the end called Drawing, and it gives me a series of images of shapes that I can insert into this slide. The very first one, we see it's a square with a little bitty A inside of it and some lines. If I hover my mouse over it, you can see it says text box. I can choose that by clicking on it once with my left mouse, come down here, depress the left mouse, keep it pressed, and drag it down diagonally to create a square, and that becomes the parameters for my text box. And we can see here that we have a blinking cursor, so I can begin typing. As I'm typing, you can see that the text box automatically adjusts its size to fit the size of the text. And if I hit enter, I create a new line and the text box gets bigger. And that's how I enter a text box into a slideshow. Entering bullet points. Now, as we saw on the second slide right here, the bullet points were preset, and they already had a preset image style. But this one, we chose to have a blank slide, so none of that formatting is in there. So if I wanted to add bullet points or numbers, I would have to do that manually. I could choose to do that inside the same text box, or I could choose to create a separate text box and put the bullet points in there. So this part of the exercise, I'm simply going to enter the bullet points into the same text box. So I'm on the second line in my text box. I'm going to come up to my ribbon here, and I'm going to come to paragraph, and we can see we have options in this top area. The very first one is bullet points, or bullets. If I wanted to do numbers, I would simply move to the icon just to the right of that, and that's the numbering to create lists. Now if you'll notice, both the bullets and the numbering have these little arrows to the right of them, these little down pointing arrows, and that means that there's an expandable menu of options. So I can click this down arrow and it will show me a lot of different bullet point images that I can choose from. And if I don't like the 6 or 7 that are listed here, I can come here to bullets and numbering, and it will expand it out a little bit more. I could even customize it if I wanted, or I could use pictures. So I'm going to go with these arrowheads and click OK. And you can see here that it puts an arrow bullet point image right there. And I can simply type in point 1, point 2, point 3. And there we have it. We have created bullet points inside the text box that we created. Now, if we wanted to do things separately to make things more visually distinctive, maybe making the information on the slide a little bit more interesting to read, what I can do is I can create another text box here, maybe about half the size, and I can insert my bullet points. Bullet point 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I can come and create another text box here, and we can use adjustment parameters, and we can use these dotted lines to make sure that we have everything lined up appropriately. And since we're inside this text box now, I have the option to insert more bullet points. We can do 5, 6, 7, 8. And so now we have two separate text boxes that have separate bullet points. So instead of having a huge list of bullet pointed points, I can break them up visually like this, so it's divided across the screen to make it more visually distinctive. Numbering. If I decided that I wanted to do lists instead of bullet points, the process is just the same way. So I would come up here to New Slide, and I would create a blank slide. So we have slide number 4 here. Still need to insert a text box, so we can do that here. We'll make this more of a title type text box, so I'll bring the font up to around 40. Side note, if you're using projectors to do presentations to the public, it's highly recommended that you use a font size of 40 or greater so that your audience is able to read the text on the screen. Now that we have the title made, we're going to create a text box here. Instead of doing the bullet points, we're going to do numbers. But if we hit this down arrow, we have different numbering capabilities. So we've got the numbers accompanied by the period. It's the classic numbering protocol. We also have the numbers followed by an end parenthesis. We have Roman numerals. We have lists created with alphabetical sequences, ABC with a period, lowercase ABC with parentheses, lowercase ABC with periods, and lowercase Roman numerals with periods. So for this one, we're going to stick with numbers accompanied with periods. So here is the first point, the second point, the third point. And then if I wanted to duplicate that over here, I'll do another text box, draw it out. I can move it until it lines up properly. Insert the numbering. Here, since this is going to be number 4, come into the numbering, choose the bullet numbers, and then here tell it to start at number 4. The 4th point, the 5th point, the 6th point. So now we have points 1, 2, and 3 paralleled by points 4, 5, and 6. And then if we wanted, we could create another text box down here at the bottom. And that's how we use text boxes, bullet points, and numbering to enhance the visuals in our slideshow. Duplicating slides. Sometimes once we have a slide formatted the way we want it, we can use that format multiple times in our slideshow, and we don't have to create it from scratch again and again. Say for example, slide number 2 here has just what we want in terms of the formatting. We just need to change the information. So what I can do is I can come over here on the left and hover my mouse over slide number 2, right click, and I get a list of commands here. And if we go into the second section, the second option is to duplicate that slide. So I duplicate the slide, Here, it's exactly the same, but in slide 3 now, if I needed to change my points, I could come in and I could edit that. So that maybe it says point 4, point 5, point 6. So that way when I play my slideshow, slide 2 has points 1, 2, and 3. Slide 3 has points 4, 5, and 6. It saves me time from having to go and recreate all of the text boxes, trying to match them up exactly, trying to pick the same bullet point style and the text formatting. I just simply duplicate it and then change the information, and all the formatting stays the same. It makes the process that much easier. When it's all said and done, the first thing we want to do is save our slideshow. Since we've already created this slideshow earlier and it has a name, test text, we're simply updating the current file. And to do that, we just come up to this red area at the top of the screen, move to the far left, and we have this little icon of a computer disk, reminiscent of computers in the 1990s and early 2000s. We click on that, and it saves the document. It's all updated now. When we're ready to give the slideshow presentation, we have a couple of options of how to start that. The first one is if we come up to the very top and we come to where we saw the save icon, we can jump a few icons over, and this one right here is the command button to start the slideshow from the beginning. And we can see in the box here, we can also press F5 to do so. So if I just click on that, the slideshow starts with the first slide, and I would either use the left mouse click or the up and down arrows on my keyboard to advance and retract the slides. And now we're at the end of the slideshow. I can hit escape and it will take me out of the presentation. That same command up here in the red area can also be found at the bottom of the slideshow screen down here where we have the zoom slide bar. The icon just left of that is the slideshow button to play the slideshow. So I'm going to go ahead and click that and we'll get started again. And I want to explain something on that first slide that you saw. Before we get started, if you look over here in the left area, which is kind of the table of contents of the slides, we see the number 1 and we see a star on the number 1. And that means that an animation has been programmed into that slide. We'll cover that a little bit more in the intermediate classes, but that determines how the text, how the information on the slide itself shows up on the slide. And so I'm going to come down here and click the slideshow button by the zoom slide bar, and it's going to start us off on the slide that we were currently looking at. So it does not start from the beginning. What we can do is we can come to slide 1 here, come back to the slide, and we see here we have the blank slide, and the animation is programmed that when I click the button or when I press the down arrow, it begins the animation sequence of placing the text onto the slide. I can hit the down arrow again, and it gives me the other text. And then when I hit it again, it will move on to the next slide. There's a third way that we can play our slideshow, and that's by following these tabs here to the one that actually says slideshow. We click on that, and we have slideshow options. Play it from the beginning, play it from the current slide, present it online, do a custom slideshow, set up the slideshow, hide a slide. If this information was not pertinent to the particular presentation, why would I do that? It's possible that I might be doing a slideshow for multiple presentations, and each one has a slight nuance of information that needs to be presented that may not be relevant to the other ones. So maybe presentation 1 doesn't need these points. So I can highlight it here. I can hide that slide. You can see the slash on the number 3 on the left hand side here. So when I play the slideshow, it will simply click past that slide. So there's slide 1, slide 2, it will skip slide 3, and move on to slide 4. And then when I go back to my second presentation, using the same slideshow, I can unhide that one because of the relevant information. And that way I don't have to create a whole new slideshow for presentations that largely have the same information. And I could even rehearse and record the slideshow. That's going to be a little bit more intermediate/advanced, so we won't cover that in this coursework. But that's the basics of how to run a slideshow. So in this video, we covered how to open an existing PowerPoint, how to create new slides and format them and edit them, how to create new themes, how to insert text and text boxes, how to enter bullet points and numbers lists, how to duplicate slides, and how to give the presentation. Once again, this is Instructor Williams for the Antioch Public Library District, and I'd like to thank you for watching our YouTube video. For more computer-related content and other Antioch Library programs, please click the subscribe button.